All right, welcome everyone. My name is Brian Kozak, the police chief here for the Cheyenne Police Department. So we're pretty proud to announce over the last decade we really put some new programs in place to try to lower property crime rate, and you can see over the last decade it's primarily been pretty successful. Now we had some spikes in 2015, 2016, primarily most of that was caused because of some big box stores that opened up here in town, I think 3 new stores. And shoplifting is considered a larceny, so it's considered part of the property crimes, which includes auto theft, burglary, and larceny. We really wanted to address the increases in property crime, so we developed some new strategies to deal with that, and actually Captain Busick is going to explain what those strategies were. But I'm pretty proud of the men and women of the police department. They actually have worked hard over the last couple of years to employ some of those new strategies. And as you can see, over the last couple of years, we've actually had a 26% decrease in property crime, which is pretty amazing. We're pretty proud of that. And this year in 2020, year to date, the property crime rates are the lowest it's ever been in Cheyenne, going back over several decades. And here on the screen in front of you are 2 decades worth of property crime. So we will explain how that has been done. Now, I also wanted to explain that we have a big concern that this crime rate will increase because of some changes here locally. As you know, there were budget cuts with the DA's office, the district attorney, and as a result, the district attorney is reducing prosecutions on certain property crimes. So we're worried that these people who are property crime offenders will feel like they can get away with the crime and continue to reoffend, and our recidivism rate will actually go up. But we have put some things in place to try to address that. Captain Kessler with our detective division will explain what we're doing with that. Another thing here locally that has occurred is the Laramie County Sheriff instituted some restrictions in booking people into the jail for property crime offenses, nonviolent offenders. Thus, what's happening here locally, the city court warrants, most of it dealing with property crime, are backing up. People have warrants, multiple warrants. They know they can't be arrested. They're continuing to commit crime. So we are actually looking to be more resourceful, more efficient with what we're doing, and we're going to address those issues. And actually, Lieutenant James will explain what we're doing on that front. But overall, I just wanted to say just how proud we are of our citizens working with us cooperatively with the police department, our men and women in the police department, to really lower this property crime, and it's paid off. And one of the things we've seen is that through the use of data analysis, we really zeroed in on what's causing the crime, which really expressed the need for a crime analyst. And luckily, I just received funding for a crime analyst position. However, the city council has put a cap on new city employees, so we'll have to wait until the next budget process and with the new mayor to see if we'll be able to fill that position. But with that, I'd like to turn it over to Captain Busick.
I'm going to take my mask off while I'm up here. Are you comfortable with me taking my mask off while I'm up here talking with you so you can hear me? Is that okay, folks? My name is Nathan Busick. I'm a captain here with the Cheyenne Police Department. It's B-U-S-E-C-K is the last name. So I'm the patrol captain, so I oversee all uniformed operations here at the police department. So what we've done with property crimes is we've incorporated a process called CompStat. And CompStat was actually developed by NYPD back in the 80s during the crack epidemic and violent crime associated with that. So I'm going to just talk about those principles and what we've used to use data in order to try to deploy resources the right way. So the first principle in CompStat is to make sure that you have accurate and timely information. So accurate and timely information. The timeliness has always been our hurdle, and we've been able to overcome that hurdle with technology. So the timeliness, it doesn't help us when we recognize a pattern of crime 6 months ago. That doesn't help. So it's finding those patterns very timely so that we can put the resources towards that. So accurate and timeliness, and then the next part is identifying the actual patterns. Myself, the patrol lieutenants have been tasked with doing that, and that's why we feel like it's important for a crime analyst to start helping us do that sort of thing as far as identifying these patterns so that we can deploy the resources to try to impact those crimes. We've been doing that, and we feel like that we've seen some success as far as the property crime rate. So then you deploy patrol resources, you may deploy canines, you may deploy your traffic unit to a specific area to up the traffic enforcement. There's a number of things we can do. Sometimes putting officers in unmarked cars to see if we can catch the offender. And we really focused on burglaries, so breaking into businesses and residences. We've also focused on burglaries to automobiles, so people stealing from cars, and then also we focused on stolen cars. So those were the three focuses over the last couple of years that we've been working on. So I want to give a specific example that we felt like in using the CompStat process, we were able to uncover a pattern and put some resources towards that. So back in February of 2020, before the pandemic really hit us, we noticed that there were cars being broken into in the area of Cheyenne Regional Medical Center and also in their parking garage. So through the use of CompStat, we were able to identify that and get resources put towards that area when these crimes were happening. And through solid investigations by the officers, collecting DNA, doing good police work on hand, we were able to also link that to burglaries that were taking place along the Del Range business corridor. And so there was a case that was, our detectives did a fantastic job also following up, identifying the suspect, getting him apprehended, and that case is currently pending over at the Laramie County District Attorney's Office. So that was an example of that, really trying to get the bad guy off the street. And it's very frustrating when you come out of your place of business, or you come out of your home, your car has been broken into. So we were really proud of that effort. So I also want to touch on a few other things. So I think some of our successes have been because we did the Lock It or Lose It campaign in 2018. We also we want to give some kudos to the big box stores that were willing to hire off-duty officers, and that helps as far as deterrence. And then we've worked cooperatively with the big box stores as far as prosecuting those crimes, those shoplifting crimes. So if you go in there and you're caught, you know you're going to be prosecuted. So that kind of goes to what the chief is talking about as far as prosecutions and the concern we have. We really want to continue to see those followed through on. And then the other thing I want to touch base on is we did some training with the patrol officers as far as DNA collection and neighborhood canvases for these burglaries. And we really are now seeing the fruit of that. We've had positive DNA hits come back to help us identify some of these suspects. And we've also, with the canvassing, we've also been able to really embrace the use of technology with many people that have these doorbells that have cameras on them. And that's been helpful for us so that we can put that up on our social media and potentially identify some of these suspects that are doing these burglaries. So with that, I would say, and I'll hand this off to Captain Kessler. He'll be next. I do want to say I'm very proud of the effort of all the patrol officers, our support staff, our detective bureau. It's really a team effort to try to keep these numbers down as far as property crimes. And certainly I also want to make sure that everyone knows that during this pandemic, the police department really has stepped up and been very dedicated to our community. So with that, I will hand this over to Captain Kessler.
Good morning, everyone. I guess I get to be Debbie Downer in this one. Thanks, Nate. So I'm Jared Kessler, Jared Keslar. I'm the services captain here at the police department. So I oversee the detective bureau and all civilian positions here at the police department. So what I want to talk about is how are the DA's budget cuts affecting our investigations and our prosecutions. So it's very early on because these budget cuts just occurred. So we don't know what this is really going to look like long term. Effects to date, though, as of today, we've had 70 cases that have either been declined or dismissed from the DA's office. Now, those run a gambit of all sorts of crimes, whether they're misdemeanor, felony. In fact, the vast majority of those are misdemeanor crimes. But there's several I want to talk about specifically. So there's 4 cases that have been dismissed that detectives put a lot of work into. 3 of those were felonies. 1 was a misdemeanor crime, but those were all habitual type criminals. So those are the offenders that we deal with on a consistent basis. We have 4 cases that are pending dismissal. They haven't officially been dismissed, but they're pending dismissal. One of those cases has 8 victims, and unfortunately that is the one that Captain Busick just talked about from the CRMC parking lot. So that is pending dismissal right now, 8 victims in those crimes. One of those cases that is pending dismissal has $32,000 worth of stolen property that was recovered. However, that case is also being dismissed from the district attorney's office. On the bright side though, that doesn't mean that those cases just go away. So we have to be a little more creative. The Detective Bureau is looking at different ways of pursuing prosecution. One of those ways is through citations into municipal court. Now you might say, well, that sounds crazy because we're issuing misdemeanor citations for felony type crimes. But we believe it's more important that there's justice than there is we just drop these cases altogether and forget about them. So even though a case might be dismissed with 8 victims of their cars being broken into, we still have the opportunity to cite them into municipal court, to cite them for city citations or city ordinance violations as a stopgap measure, I guess, for the near future until the budget gets put back into place, hopefully in the DA's office. And that's really, again, we don't know how this is going to look long term, but our detectives are doing a great job. They're still doing follow-up. We still have open lines of communication with the DA's office. So if a case does come up that doesn't meet their criteria, our detectives are still contacting the district attorney saying, hey, is there a way that we can still prosecute this through your office? And they're more than happy to look at those cases and give us their determination on whether they will go forward with prosecution or not, and whether we should go to municipal court with that prosecution. If there's nothing for me, I'm going to hand this over to Lieutenant James.
Good morning. Thank you all again for coming this morning. So I'm Lieutenant James. That's J-A-N as in Nora E-S. I'm the day shift bureau lieutenant, so I handle all the patrol stuff during the day. One of the unintended consequences that came out of the COVID and the COVID restrictions has been a massive growth in our city warrants. Because city prosecutes misdemeanor crimes, we end up with a lot of property crimes that are nonviolent, and therefore when they get a warrant for not showing up at court or not paying their fines, the jail won't take them. And understandably they won't, because then it causes overcrowding and then issues with COVID in their facility. Well, it's grown to an amount that's almost unmanageable. Okay, right now the city has over 800 city warrants. That is too much to handle. And as the jail then starts to lift restrictions towards the end of the COVID pandemic, we're going to have a big issue, because all of a sudden now we're going to have these 800 different warrants out there that are going to be arrested, and then we're really going to have overcrowding within the jail. So we had to get very creative, and luckily we had some really good teammates to work with. Platte County Sheriff, who we've used for a long time to house some of our long-term inmates, and we already have a contract with. They agreed to help us out. Goshen County Sheriff's Department agreed to help us out as well in their jail. So we will eventually be taking them there. We do not have the contract finished with Goshen County, but we're working on it. And the Cheyenne Municipal Court really helped out a bunch as well. So what we're going to start is the Cheyenne Municipal Warrant Task Force. And with that task force, we will prioritize our warrants. So we'll look at people who have multiple warrants. We'll look at people who have multiple victims. We'll look at the amount of effect these people have on our community. Yeah, they may be nonviolent, but it's caused a lot of problems. And they continue to do these same things. Our officers continue to contact them, and they continue to say, well, I know you're not going to arrest me because this is a nonviolent misdemeanor and the jail won't take us. Well, we're going to change that. So now people with warrants, we're going to start looking for November 13th will be our first one, Friday the 13th at that. We will get together and we will prioritize the offenders who we think need to at least go see the judge right away. And so we've teamed up with the court. We will send officers out. They will look for these offenders. We'll bring them in. We'll keep them here at the police department for a short time until we can get them straight over to the court. The court has worked out a period of time that morning to help us out. And the Judge Ross, will hold arraignments for them right on the site, do the arraignment, and if he deems necessary, we will then transport them up to Wheatland, to the Platte County Jail, where they'll sit either awaiting their trial or if they plead guilty at their arraignment, serving their sentence that the judge gives them at the arraignment. So it really helps us to whittle down that warrant list. We have several other dates in the future that they're gonna make this same arrangement for us so that we can work to get these warrants taken care of and out of our system. But that's it. I mean, we don't want to arrest everybody, and so we really strongly recommend that if there are people out there who believe they may have a warrant, we want them to contact the municipal courthouse immediately, because if they contact them before November 13th, the court will actually let them either post their bond or talk to the judge and figure it out, and then they'll quash the warrant, and the warrant will go away. So we want to get rid of these warrants as quickly as we can, and so we are highly encouraging people to get their warrants taken care of beforehand. Call the municipal courthouse, go down to the municipal courthouse, speak to the clerks down there, and get it worked out with your bond to get that taken care of. If not, come the 13th, we're going to start looking for the municipal warrant and start taking care of them. So, is there any questions on the warrant task force? Perfect. Well, Chief?
All right, that was pretty much what we wanted to brief you. Main points are we're proud of the crime rate being the lowest it's been in Cheyenne for decades now, and we want to continue that downward trend, and we're worried that the budget cuts from the state on the district attorney's office is going to impact that and cause crime to go up. So we are being, I guess, proactive and innovative in creating solutions so that we can continue to do our job, which is to arrest those property crime offenders, and hopefully we need a whole entire criminal justice system. So we need the prosecution, we need the jails, we need the courts, we need police all working together. And unfortunately right now locally it seems like the criminal justice system is struggling. So we are being innovative to use other county jails to make sure we can arrest those offenders and make sure that they're prosecuted, if not through the county court, through the city court. And we want to make sure everyone is warned that for now, people think they're getting away with it. People think that they can't be arrested. But we want to make sure the warning is out that we will start arresting those people on Friday the 13th of November. So we wanted to make sure people clear those warrants up if they can. Are there any questions? Yes?
So those two county jails that you mentioned, are those places that overcrowding isn't an issue, or why are those chosen?
So the question from the newspaper is, the two county jails that we're going to use, is overcrowding an issue there? Why are we using those jails? And in meeting with those jail officials, overcrowding is not an issue. They have procedures in place to deal with COVID-19 infections and segregation. So they were very cooperative in working with us. Yes, from Channel 5, yes.
I know this is like not necessarily dealing with, this is kind of like foreshadowing a little bit, but if there is a mask mandate, do you guys plan on having an enforcement plan? If like somebody breaks that mandate?
Okay, so a different topic. The question is if the local county health department creates a mask mandate, what will our enforcement strategies be for that? We have to see what that mandate is, first of all. Now, I've seen the proposed mandate, which is it will apply towards inside buildings and businesses and so forth. So our plan is that we will back up the health department. So the health department will be first contact on businesses that are not promoting or enforcing that rule. And if a business does not comply with the health department may call us to help enforce that mandate. Thanks. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Is it overcrowding at the sheriff's office? Is that why they put in the new restrictions?
I don't know for sure. You might have to ask the sheriff. I think I've heard that it could be because of COVID-19 concerns. And another concern I've heard is that the staffing issues. He doesn't have enough deputies in the jail to open the new pod that the taxpayers just built. So I heard that's another issue as well. But you probably should ask the sheriff. Thanks. All right. Thank you.